Now, you've spent some time looking at the glands of the skin when we looked at exocrine glands in general, so I'm not going to say an awful lot about it, but you should be able to identify eccrine glands, both the secretory part and the duct part of the eccrine glands, and you should be able to identify the processes of myoepithelial cells, as well as to find possibly the nucleus of a myoepithelial cell. Apocrine glands are found in the axilla, the groin, circumanal region, and the scrotum, and a couple of other places. They produce a thicker secretion than do eccrine glands. They're also called ceruminous glands. Sebaceous glands open into hair follicles, and they secrete the whole cell. They fill up the cell with a sebum, with fatty secretion called sebum. The cells are pushed to the surface of the gland. Eventually they burst, and sebum is put out into the hair shaft, from where it finds its way out onto the surface of the epithelium. Both apocrine and sebaceous glands are strongly influenced by circulating sex hormones, particularly the androgens such as testosterone. And during this period of rapid maturation, at around puberty, ducts of these glands can get blocked up, forming blackheads, as well as becoming infected, yielding the common infection known as acne or pimples. This can be easily taken care of in these days by antibiotics or by derivatives of vitamin A. Another way to prevent males from getting acne is to castrate them, because then they won't produce any androgens, they won't go through puberty, and consequently they won't get pimples. Lastly, let's look at hair and nails. Hairs are keratinized filaments which also develop from invaginations of the epidermis, called the hair follicle, which I've shown over here. And hair growth is also strongly influenced by sex hormones, particularly on the face, the axilla, the pubis, etc. And so just as castration prevents males from developing acne, it will prevent males from going bald. Now, the outermost part of the hair follicle is a downgrowth of the epidermis, which is called the external root sheath, and you should be able to identify the external root sheath, the internal root sheath, the actual hair, and then you should be able to identify the bulb, which is where hair growth starts. The cells lining the bulb are equivalent to the basal cells of the epidermis, and they divide and get pushed up towards the surface of the hair, becoming melanized and keratinized as they're pushed up towards the surface. So the epithelial cells that make up the bulb are equivalent to the stratum basale, the cells of the stratum basale. And the bulb is invaginated by a papilla, and this contains nerves and blood vessels which are responsible for nutrition of the cells that are in the basal part of the bulb. As in the epidermis, the cells are gradually keratinized on the way to the surface, and melanocytes, which are present in the basal layer just as they are in the skin, transfer melanin or melanosomes to the keratinocytes, and these melanosomes are not destroyed as the hair grows up and erupts from the surface of the skin. Keratin forming the skin is a rather hard type of keratin. And remember that every hair bulb is joined to a sebaceous gland, and the gland secretes its sebum into the space around the hair. Nails are also a derivative of skin. In fact, the nail itself is equivalent to the stratum corneum of skin. Nails grow from an area called the nail matrix, and the cells of the nail matrix are equivalent to the basal cells of the epidermis. Cells in the matrix divide, get pushed forward by younger cells at the root of the nail, and as they move up the nail, they get keratinized, and the nail simply glides over the nail bed to which it is attached. And just like a hair, if you remove the nail, it will regrow as long as the nail matrix is not destroyed. A hair will grow as long as the bulb is not destroyed. Oh, I forgot, we are going to need to look at the encapsulated nerves of the skin. You've all looked at Meissner's corpuscles, and they are specialized to detect very light touch. And then deeper down in the dermis of skin, there are Pacinian corpuscles. These are very easy to identify because they look like the cut face of an onion. They have a free nerve ending right in the center and are surrounded by these epithelial-like cells. And they're pressure receptors, and they're localized in the areas of the skin which require great sensitivity, such as the fingertips.